So I'll just get going, man, just with a little intro. I think there's still some people joining in, but yeah, I'm Ben, founder of Diploma. For those who don't know or are not familiar, we're a streetwear brand that bridge clothes, education, and community together. And today is the first lecture talks that we're doing. So the topic is how to monetize your music. So we got some experts on the panelists today that you guys could soak in some knowledge from. Yes, sir. I'm excited to get this going. We got Teo, part of the Diploma team, and Omri, who will be helping us out with just moderating the chat box. So for anyone who has questions during the talk, you could just drop your questions in the chat box and they could manage it from there. So without further ado, I'll let Steven take over the stage and present the panelists.
Yeah, what up, everyone? First, before anything, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming to the Zoom. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to you guys. This is you making an investment in yourself to want to learn and be educated and, you know, pursue your dreams. So big shout out to you guys. We had these talks, you know, No Diploma, we started a music club and we're just like, we're going to communicate, we're going to get things going. And the number one thing that I realized everyone wanted was, you know, how to make money. Of course, you want to make money in music. You don't want to keep making music for free. So I said, you know what? I'm going to grab two of my close friends in music, people that I trust, people that I go to consulting, or people that we collaborate with all the time. So I want to introduce my first Amilcar Pro Welton, founder of CREATE.Digital Music. Just to give you guys a little forewarning of why he's even on here. This man has taught me 70% of all of my music business. Everything else I've learned is in the streets. So this guy is a trusted source. I want you guys all to build with him. But I will let Pro introduce himself.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm humbled, and thank you for including me, all of you, in this panel. So I'm the founder of CREATE.Digital Music. In a nutshell, we are a creative solutions company, meaning pretty much everything that encompasses trying to monetize your music content. It's what we do. That's just the short version. So I'm sure we'll expand and elaborate on the other things as we go through the conversation.
So thank you for being here. And then my next buddy, my friend, Mr. Fizz. You know, Maiwand is a good friend. He's a good friend of my artist, Pretty Papes, and he's been a brother to me. So I'm blessed to have him on here. Maiwand is currently the head of marketing at Dash Radio. So Maiwand, introduce yourself, please, brother.
What's up, everybody? My name is Maiwand. Yeah, head of marketing at Dash Radio. I work with a handful of artists. Yeah, I'm excited to share any knowledge I have and to learn myself. Always a student of the game first. So I'm excited. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, for sure. Thank you for joining us. And for me, I didn't say, so I'm Stephen J. I'm the founder of Welton Music Group, music label from Long Beach, California, that really focuses on artist development and human development before anything. And then how to actually, you know, get money in this music journey. We're all just figuring it out. One thing of why I resonate with No Diploma so much is because, you know, this music stuff is all life lessons. You can go to school so far, a piece of paper is going to get you maybe in the door, but it's going to be this community that you have. It's going to be networking laterally. It's going to be building real relationships. It's going to take you further. So for the first topic, how to monetize music. You know what? I want to get even more basic with that. With most people, what I drill into my artists all the time, which is understanding metadata. So Pro, would you like to break down exactly what metadata is and what metadata entails?
So metadata, you know, across all industries, but particularly the music industry, is pretty much all of the information that travels with the content. So be it music releases, music video releases, any type of content. So that's your credits, your publishing information. There's additional information that might be included, including release dates. Is it explicit content? You know, that's why it's so important with metadata to have, you know, you have stage names, you have legal names, but for metadata, you want the legal names of your composers, your songwriters, your audio engineers, your A&Rs. All this information travels with the content if you enter it. So the thing about metadata, it is a digital world, it's a digital space, and we are in, you know, virtual worlds and AI now, but ultimately metadata starts with a human being. So if you don't collect the metadata correctly at the beginning of the admin process, obviously you're going to have issues as the metadata travels along with the content. And the biggest crime, and I do call it a crime, that occurs when you don't have complete and correct metadata is people don't get paid. So, you know, when you're looking at monetizing and looking at, you know, individuals that always will, you know, cheer and say, hey, look, I'm all about the artists, I'm all about the independent community, you know, I'm all about my music creation and my career. But to back up that fact, if you're not adminning your content correctly, then you don't care. It would be essentially the same mistake as putting your bank account and routing number incorrect on some paperwork and somebody's trying to pay you. I mean, that's the quickest example I can give you, but it's criminal to the point of, I believe if you keep up with the MLC, which I don't even want to go there right now because that's another hour or two, but
we're going to get into it.
That is responsible for helping disperse unclaimed money. And I believe their amount that they received in unclaimed money was somewhere in the range of 42 million. So that's due to incomplete metadata and due to being able not to disperse that money to correct individuals and creators across the globe. So if that's called the black box. So if you don't want your content to end up in a black box and unclaimed, again, metadata, making sure yourself and all the collaborators that help you in your creative process get paid. So that's probably my summary, I guess.
And just to kind of piggyback on that, you know what? It's when it's your song, you need to make all metadata. You need to make sure all metadata is correct when it's your song, but you also need to make sure you're included on everyone else's metadata. So maybe you're collaborating on someone, your shit's top line, they have nothing together. That is essentially going to ruin, or it's not going to help you at all, because that's your artwork, that's your intellectual property going into this production. And if you're not getting paid, if you're not listed, that's no one's fault, but essentially your own. So again, that's why it's important to do it, because like you said, you're not going to get paid. Maiwand, do you have anything to kind of touch on when it comes to the back end side of like the basics? Remember, this is a 101.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we're going that, you know, that basic, I always tell every artist, if you're not registered on ASCAP or BMI, or you don't know what those mean, you are not an artist. You're somebody who likes to sing or do karaoke. You have to really make sure, like early on in your career, I think before you even release your first song, you get all that out the way, organize it, have you doing to ASCAP, BMI, have that somewhere, have your DistroKid logins, you know, you want to have everything cleanly organized. A great example is Steven. He knows, not gonna throw a name out there, but he had somebody he was working with, a producer, and he had to ask him like, yo, what's your ASCAP? And then dude came to me and was like, yo, what the fuck is ASCAP? And luckily we had set him up. I set him up in 2008, and he was able to go to his email and just literally type in ASCAP, and he was able to find his ASCAP number in like a minute. So if you haven't done that, if anyone here watching or anyone who watches this later down the road hasn't done that, you're not an artist yet. Don't mean to discourage you, just mean stop everything you're fucking doing, register, make sure you have all that somewhere, because yes, Steven said, like when your moment comes, you don't want to have to go back and chase after that money. It should already be lined up.
So real quick for everyone, a ASCAP or BMI or even CSAC, they're called pros. They're called Performance Rights Organization. They are who collect your money for you on your behalf. Whether your song is played on the radio, or whether your song has a mechanical license, or whether it's even on like Pandora. That's what ASCAP, BMI, CSAC cover. And again, that's the basics. That's the first level of admin. That's the first level of metadata that you as an individual control.
Can I add
of
two
course,
more?
Of course.
I want to add a layer to the performance rights organizations, because now there are two that you want to make sure you put on your checklist. So whether you choose, as they mentioned, you know, BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, those are the typical. If you're in Canada, is SOCAN, and on across the globe. But you want to also make sure that you register with Sound Exchange. So you can do that online as well, and you'll have a login and password and dashboard as well. And the reason you want to register with Sound Exchange, the short version, is that if you're listed as an artist or a featured artist on a song, there's a digital mechanical specifically for that Sound Exchange distributes. So this is in addition to ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, etc. Then recently, in the last probably, I'll say 5 months, the Music Licensing Collective, which I mentioned before with the black box, you need to register with them. So you can go to their website again. It's the MLC. If you just Google MLC, they'll be the first one to come up in the Google search. You want to register with them because they're an additional performance rights organization. And again, there's so much to all of this. I don't want to go into it, but the key, again, I want to give you something tangible to move on with. The key to registering with them is that they're about to be in charge solely for all of Apple's disbursements as far as mechanicals are concerned. So if you do any mechanical license from Apple, they're going to pay it out to you. So if you're not registered with them, guess what? You're not going to get that money, right? So it's important. Sound Exchange and the MLC, in addition to what the gentleman mentioned before me. Okay, that's about spiel.
No, that's dope. I want to get into something else because I did want to bring up the Mechanical Licensing Collective. Maiwand, do you want to touch on anything before that, or we can continue the convo?
Yeah, I was gonna really quickly say, if any artist has not read this book, you can't see it. It all became black. Wow. So there's a book called All You Need to Know About the Music Industry by Donald Passman.
Yes.
That's another thing I tell every artist, and it's to me, it's like, if you don't buy that book and read it, you don't take it seriously. So anyone who's watching this, now that you've heard about it, it's by Donald Passman. All You Need to Know About the Music Industry. There we go.
Yep,
if anybody hasn't read that book and doesn't in the next year, I recommend to find a different career. Like this has everything you need. It will break down everything that you might not know already. It's broken down in a way where you can go back throughout your career. So that's, I'm glad he has it. Everybody should own a copy of that book. My physical copy is in Orlando with my friend Nino Blue. I gave it to him last time he was here. But anyway, I was just going to bring that up before we went forward. That book is the ultimate resource with all this information and percentages splits, what your manager is going to ask of you, what your manager's owed, tour royalties, things in there. So I just wanted to mention that book, and shout out to the guy who has it. That book is the holy grail, holy Bible of music knowledge. Everything I've learned before I jumped in was there, and I still go back to that book all the time.
Yeah, I
that as well.
agree with that. Yeah, it's definitely, like you said, it's to me, it's a working tool. Whether you want to refresh something, whether you're just stuck, or I've read it 3 times just because I felt like I didn't understand everything. And I didn't understand everything after the 3rd time because there's so much, but it covers really, like you said, every question. And for me, what really helped make me understand a good grasp is publishing and understanding. It taught me how music labels run and essentially how the music industry runs, not necessarily how an independent artist runs. So that's what gives you a good perspective too, because you have something that you can definitely compare and contrast. This is what I'm doing. This is what everyone else is doing. Cool. Let me create my hybrid. But yeah, dope. So real quick, the MLC, do you want to, so I was working hand in hand with Pro when everything went down. And it happened in 2018. It's called the Music Monetization Act. And again, this is still Music 101 because you need to know it right now. So when the MLC came together, they came together with a bunch of different laws and a bunch of different rates. Pretty much the Music Monetization Act said that singers and songwriters are going to get a higher payout. They're going to get a better percentage. But essentially what happens is now your music, whether it's straight on, it's played on digital streaming platforms or anything like that, if Apple Music says, hey, your song was streamed on our platform, you're owed $200, whatever. Say you don't respond to that email or your admin isn't set up for that email, you are going to lose that money. So Pro, do you want to break down how they lose that money if they do not respond directly related to the MM?
Yeah, for sure. And again, like I said, I mean, the Music Modernization Act, the MLC, is probably a freaking 3-week course, man. That thing was, I'll be honest. So I read the whole Music Modernization Act. It took me like a week. it was so foreign and ridiculous. It's extensive. So again, we don't want people to go into that level of it. And again, I probably didn't retain but 10% of what I read. But essentially what happened was all the musical bodies that fight for our best interests most of the time, you know, the Grammys, the RIAA, who certifies gold and platinum and diamond records, CSAC, ASCAP, all these bodies of music, all these high profile artists and songwriters and publishers got together and started lobbying just like cannabis, tobacco, alcohol, everybody else does in Washington, right? So what came out of that is the Music Monetization Act. And essentially what it said is the entertainment and music has evolved, especially when it comes to streaming content. You cannot use old formulas and old structure to compensate the creators because it's not fair. We're not selling 1999 CDs anymore, right? People were getting big chunks of money off of selling a $20 CD. It's not that anymore. So basically level the playing field and stop letting all these huge music tech companies, because again, these aren't music companies, they're really music tech platforms and advertisers. You know, YouTube is predominantly an advertiser. You look at them as a streaming video content company, but they're really an advertisement company. So how do they benefit and make these multi-millions and billions and get these billion-dollar valuations off the backs of the creators that are, you know, getting paid pennies? So that's what the Music Monetization Act is all about. That gets the ball rolling. It was approved. That gets the ball rolling. Now, the work that it will take to get us paid the higher rates is a process. So the MLC was written into the Music Monetization Act as the body that would be created to make sure that we are compensated correctly and to properly disperse any black box revenue. So what Stephen is referring to is the black box revenue, as I mentioned earlier. So here's the situation. And honestly, every time I say this, I'm not exaggerating. I get this really effed up feeling in my stomach that is so wrong that for decades this has been going on. So essentially what happens is, and we're talking major label down to Joe Smo, who's the MC and distributing on whoever through us, Dishos Kids, CD Baby, whoever. If your admin is not proper, but yet your content is on platforms and is generating revenue, if it cannot be claimed, it goes into this black box. So the old rule used to say every 3 years, the big three who have the market share at this point is Universal, Sony, and Warner Music. They get to split up what's ever left in the black box every 3 years. So if it's not claimed, and we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, it's like free money to the majors and they can do what they want. They don't have to give it to their artists on their roster, nothing. It's just free money because they have the market share across the globe. So that's still being done today. The MMA is going to make it better, and the MLC is going to help disperse it to the independent. You know, basically now we all have a shot to register with the MLC and make sure that our portion of that money is not going to somebody else. That's at the end of the day, that's what it is. But I'm letting you know, literally, people that you know have been doing music for a long time and haven't been doing proper admin, they pretty much been giving money to help support the bigger companies because it just gets split up after no one collects it. So that's my short version and knowledge of it. Again, it's so in depth. You would have to have an open book or the MMA open to dig into it. But that's on the surface. If hopefully that's tangible for everybody, they can.
And that's exactly what I wanted to do, is just to show how effed up it is on the surface, because it's even deeper than that. Right. And that's kind of how everything is. But now I want to get into the next part. We talked about all the just the admin stuff. Now we have a lot of people who have music on SoundCloud, right? SoundCloud is one of the base things. I feel like everyone has put a song on SoundCloud if they're trying to be an artist. So now how do you get that music to the next level? How do you get it on the streaming platforms? How do you get it onto all these other platforms? So Pro, what does CREATE.Digital Music do?
So at the core of the business, as I said, we rebranded ourselves as Creative Solutions because we have our hands in so many processes that are both creative and business when it comes to music. But the core of the company was built on digital distribution. So, you know, at a time where there weren't a lot of people in the space, I was in that space early as an artist and then transitioned to the business side and offered those resources to people that I knew and people that were looking to, you know, get their music on the platforms before there was a CD Baby, a DistroKid, et cetera, et cetera. But now, you know, we have all these powerhouses. The difference is, in our sense, we work more as a boutique distributor. And I like that word because we're very particular about who we work with. And we maintain a certain size so we can keep the overhead low, and we can also not have to cut into our client splits. Now, when you talk about DistroKid and CD Baby, their distribution services, that's a difference. You know, there's no knock. I love the competitive space, and they all have value. And honestly, most of our clients have accounts with everyone I mentioned. So they release certain stuff through us, certain stuff through the other platforms. But the difference is just that personal touch that when you talk about A&R and executive production and creative guidance and strategies for business, you're not going to get that with a distribution service. You're going to get a particular service for a particular fee, and you keep it moving. You know, you're a number in the system, which is fine. That works for a lot of people. And then you have like Empire, which they are the leader, you know, and truthfully, most people don't call Empire a distributor anymore because they have turned into a major independent label. They are a machine. So to call them a distribution company anymore, which is what they started doing, it would be unfair. So that's just kind of a variation of what's out there. You want to make sure that you pick a situation that's good for you. And if you self-distribute, if you use one of these services and you self-distribute, just remember, the reason you give splits and cuts to certain entities and individuals is because they do the work that you're incapable of doing, and they're the experts in that field. It's the same thing with an athlete, the same thing with a tech company. It's all businesses run like that, but creators tend to be a little more hesitant when giving up a piece of their pie. But if you're going to commit to doing it through a distribution service, these conversations are for you. You're the one responsible for the correct collection of metadata. You're the one responsible for entering it correctly. You're the one responsible when there's a mistake and you have to fix it and deal with an artist manager and everybody else that's going to come looking for you when it's incorrect, or they're not getting paid, they're not getting their statements, they're not getting their splits. So just remember that, like, that's part of the process. You can own it and be your own independent, you know, truthfully, but it comes with a lot of work.
Exactly. Maiwand, you worked with multiple artists. You worked with artist Joey Fats. Do you want to talk about how you guys distributed or anything around your experience with distribution companies or deals?
Yeah, I mean, Joey always retained all of his masters. His big thing was like to never give up ownership of the music. But what a lot of people don't know is you don't have to necessarily give up ownership of the music to get at least some sort of machine behind you or financing. So something you can do is just go get a distribution deal in which they recoup money from your streams, and then you kind of buy, like, your hard work buys you out of that deal. It will last for a duration of, for example, we did one that I think it was 3 years, and they had half of his back catalog until it was recouped. So he, you know, as an artist, you can still own your masters, but also get that help. You're not going to get like the full machine help. Normally you'll just get like a lump sum of money. Maybe they have like a couple plugs. They'll get you on No Jumper. They might get you on Zane Low. But yeah, you don't have to. A lot of people, I think, make the mistake in assuming, which is, I had made that mistake before working with Joey, that if you take a lump sum of money from somebody, they're going to own your art or a percentage of your art for its lifetime, which is not true. You can work out deals where you're in a term, whether it's 2 years, 3 years. Normally it's for you to recoup the money. Now, of course, if they give you $100,000, they're going to want to recoup probably 120, 130, or they're going to hold on to some percentage. Like, I think it's really interesting. There's been this whole narrative. It really came up when Megan Thee Stallion came out and was like, yo, my old contract, they got me, like, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's really interesting because I think we as creatives don't realize how many times, not us, but it's a double-sided sword. Like, creatives have screwed over the labels dozens of times. Rest in peace, Nip. When Nip was on Atlantic, Nip made, this might not be 100% accurate, but Nip made an album with Atlantic, and then he didn't like the way the paperwork look. So he just released the album to the streets and never fulfilled his deal. So there's examples of that. There's times where labels put tons of money behind artists and it doesn't work out. So for labels to work, they do have to come up on you a little bit. Like they might, after they recoup, take an extra 20%, or they might eat off your album streams for an extra few years. But these things are, to me, they're okay, especially if you're an artist and you're not making anything yet. It's like, it's that classic, would you rather have 100% of nothing or 80% of something? But I think it's important to try to retain your, like as much ownership as you can, and to really just, our guys hit it on the head here, making sure you know who you're working with and that you can trust these individuals. They're actually going to do something. So there's a lot of ways to like give up 2% of your song or 10% of your project, or half of your streaming for a few years to essentially get that money up front to use. And that's one thing I learned with Joey. He was coming out of a deal. He took another few year one, and it gave him the resources to put up billboards, shoot all these music videos. And of course he had that money himself, but one of like this classic things you learn in business is you never invest your own money to get your business going. You definitely can, but when you run out of that money, you're out. So I think you can use the music as a leverage tool to get something behind you. And if you're a smaller artist, it could be $20,000, $10,000, maybe $1,000, and see how fast you can recoup that. But that's like I think, up and coming artists should know you can't escape that. If you want a label to help you, if you want a platform to help you, the platform is going to need something back. Doesn't necessarily mean they have to own all your masters, but they need something back. You're not going to get this label distribution company to help you for nothing, just out of love. And yeah, dog, don't even worry about it. We'll just recoup money in time. Like they're gonna need something, bro. And it's always good to think, if you were the label, would you just be handing out money to artists? Like, yeah, dog, I'm gonna give you $100K, make me that $100K back, and then we're boys and we'll just build together. Fuck no. Like, you're gonna be like, here's $100K, I want 120 back. Even after the 120, I got your shit for 2 years. So expect that. And I think it's like a good problem to have, to get screwed over a little bit and learn. It's a better problem, to get just a little bit. Like, don't fuck yourself completely. I wish I could show the book, but if you have the book, you can make sure you don't step on your toes completely, but you're going to have to give a little bit if you want to get, especially in this industry.
Boom. And that touches, it's a little out of order, but that touches exactly what I want to talk about, brand partnerships, because that's essentially what this deal is. What a distribution deal is a brand partnership. Is like, okay, you're an entity, I'm an entity. Today, we're going to come together and make sure that the success of this project is profitable, because when you profit, I profit. When I profit, you profit. That's the kind of mentality. And so that's also another way, like he said, you never want to use your own money. You want to get investor money and double up on that. So here's a perfect example. A lot of artists, they forget that there's a brand aspect behind being an artist. People not only fall in love with the music, they don't only fall in love with you, but they fall in love with the brand. They fall in love with what you stand for, what they can connect with. So now when you create that brand value, you can now partner with any other kind of brand. It doesn't have to be music. So Pro, I would love, and then Maiwand, I want to open this up to you as well. I want to talk, can you give the class some examples of how you have partnered in music, but outside of music, something that is non-traditional, even though it may be traditional for you and your profession?
It's always tied to music, but I can definitely give a few examples. In 2015, we had an artist that was based out of Richmond, California, which is the Bay Area, essentially. And in 2015, the Golden State Warriors were making their run for a championship. By the way, go Lakers. So they were making their run, and we saw an opportunity because the artist was always, it's the cliche where the artist is wearing the hometown gear all the time, right? We see artists do that all the time, right? But no artist is getting checks, or they're not getting checks from the alcohol company. and there's only a handful of artists getting checks from Hennessy, and we see Hennessy on every other music video right now, right? So me and my team at the time, we had the thought like, man, what if we could get at the Golden State Warriors? Now, they're making a championship run. They're already established as superstars. They're in a major city. It's connected to the NBA. I mean, the chances of doing that as an independent are pretty much zero. However, you manifest it, and we actually end up connecting with the person that was in charge of editing the videos for the on-screen display during the games at the arena for the Warriors. So we sent him a customized version of a song that we had already released, but we customized it for the Golden State Warriors. And this brother put the song in the video for the arena, and it took off. So yes, it was music related, but it really was a non-traditional partnership with this guy. So we pretty much, what we did was, because we retained the distribution rights, we own the master, all of that. Of course we didn't charge him to put it in the video, because he made an official music video based on footage he was authorized to use. So, I mean, I'm still getting paid, me personally too, because I was a co-producer on the track. I'm personally still seeing residuals off of that. It was 2015. But to me, that's thinking outside of the box. Like, don't limit yourself and just think like it makes sense. Like, again, even today, I use that Hennessy example because it's so notorious. It's like, if I'm on a team and I see this guy on camera, off camera, drinking Hennessy 24/7, eventually I'm either going to say, dude, you need to start drinking something that we can partner with, or we need to go at Hennessy with a fantastic proposal and pitch deck and plan and budget and try to make this make sense. Because otherwise you're just like, dude, you're boosting their sales annually and you're not seeing any return on that, right? So that's kind of a good example. You know, I probably have many, but to me that was a good one because, again, like I said, it's 2015, but we're all still seeing residuals off of that. So it was definitely a good move.
Thank you for sharing. Maiwand.
Yeah, I'm gonna begin this by saying go Celtics. That's my team. But shout out to that, and I think that hits on something that a lot of people overlook as up and coming musicians. We're kind of like, shit, we haven't made it yet. We're kind of like embarrassed that we haven't got to where we want to, because every musician comes out the gates wanting their first album to be Illmatic. It's natural. Like, you've seen another human beings come out the gates and gone platinum. So when a lot of artists don't, I think they kind of hide behind, like, they don't realize that art is really cool. And that's what brands want. Brands want to be cool. So you don't have to start with, like, that's incredible. Man, shout out to you getting on the Warriors. But you can start with a free hoodie. Like, find ways to build this kind of concept of, like, I'm gonna give you something, I need something in return. And I think starting small is actually the way to go. I've seen a lot of artists, Steven knows, like, if you watch a lot of Pretty Papes videos, I always have like a silent tear of happiness when I see Papes hitting like a vape pen and you see the name of the vape pen. A lot of people might think those are his boys, but it's like, no, he probably got half of the video covered, maybe the whole thing. Maybe he got, there's ways, like, brands want to be cool. Like, and a lot of people should know, all major brands have a marketing budget. And in addition to that, all major companies have, what's called, like, traditionally, like, write-offs. Like, they have to spend a certain amount of money every year. And most of them allocate a lot of that money to trying to be cool. And so as a musician, you could use your art a lot of creative ways. And I think it's important to just start with something. Get $100 for your video. I remember trying to chase down, me and Joey I met with Steven to see if the dispensary he worked for wanted to promote his video. Did that for dozens of people, and a lot of people actually sit and listen because they want to be cool. They want to feel like, even if it's not going to be the best ROI, return on investment, they want to actually associate with something hip. And it's a lot easier for a musician to be hip than a brand. So it's definitely important to reach out to brands, almost like a daily thing. Like, even if you don't have a manager, you don't need one. I always tell everybody, you just need a mgmt@gmail.com. Just set up a management email, reach out to brands, consistently try to build these relationships, even if they don't come, you know, out the gates, they might follow your Instagram account and see your growth and want to latch on. And it's more than just getting like a free care package. That's a good start, but you could eventually roll these into having your music videos covered. I've seen companies trying to work on something right now for a independent artist where this workout machine is going to basically fund his next mixtape. That might sound weird, but the workout machine essentially needs music that people can work out to without them having to get it licensed. So
Right.
he's an independent artist and he's huge. It's you know, I'll say his name is Ace Hood. We're trying to link him with a company called Lightboxer. They have to license all their music, and it's kind of like Peloton, where you're working out on beat. It's very music infused. So he might, you know, Ace Hood, if they say the right numbers, they're going to essentially pay for all the production of his mixtape. They're going to give him a marketing budget, almost like a label, just to have the music uploaded directly, get the exclusive release on their new workout machine. And in addition to that, just to feel cool. Like I'm just trying to like hammer down that these brands want to feel cool. They drove to his house and brought him a machine. CEO of the company was freaking out. Ace Hood hasn't charted in years. Like, he's an incredible artist. And so everyone knows the reason he hasn't charted like that is he's independent now, 100%. And as you guys know, when you're independent 100%, you don't have to chart to make the same amount of money or have same amount of impact in your life. You could selling 10,000, well, the old school way, selling 10,000 records independently meant way more than selling 100,000 signed to a machine. So anyway, so my point to that was like, there are brands that want to feel cool. It's just about really reaching out and, you know, starting with a small thing, getting a free, you know, hoodie with some jeans to wear in your video, and then expand that to, hey, can I actually get some of the video covered? Getting your production covered. But brands want to feel cool, and as an artist, you have that, like, the ability to feel cool. And back to the Hennessy model, every artist should have a brand that they push. And I'm not talking about merch, like, not like, you know, my name is Michael and it's like Michael Entertainment. Have an actual brand, whether it's some kind of drink, some kind of clothing, something that you actually own, and it's a product, and you can place your own product. If you're placing other people's products all day, you might as well place your own. It could be joint wraps, it can be anything, but I think that's huge that every artist understand you could use your music and your art to fuel a brand. You're going to, regardless. Every one of your videos, you're going to have a name on your chest. There's going to be a model car that you show off. You know, you pull up in this car, that car. So you might as well create a brand that kind of grows parallel with your career, but isn't, you know, dependent on your career. That's one of the things I love. Like when Justin Bieber did Giroux, if Justin Bieber falls off in the next 5 years and none of us hear from him, he has a clothing brand, Giroux, that isn't related to his name. Like, it doesn't say Justin Bieber. You don't see his album names on the shirts. He could fall off the face of the music earth and his clothing brand will probably still be in Nordstrom's, Saks Fifth Avenue. And he's pushed it through his music. A lot of his videos, when he's just posting on IG, he wears his brand. And I think every artist out the gates should start trying to conceptualize a product or something that they own that they can put in the forefront. That was it for
perfect. That was amazing. Thank you. No, you had me texting my wife like, yo, I want a white label tequila now. I was like, I know we could do that for the low.
That's what I'm saying. Even if you don't actually have it, like, imagine just having the label, what you think it's going to look like. Build hype on it. Like, why are you putting Honduras tequila in your video? Honduras doesn't give a shit. Why not, you know, put your own brand on it? But like, Joey's a great example. If you ask him, he's done tons of interviews about it. His Cutthroat clothing probably exceeds his music revenue a lot of months. And Cutthroat is a clothing brand that He doesn't have to release music. You see it all the time. But then there's, you know, artists that their clothing is really their music. So now if their music drops or falls, their clothing brand's going to have a hit too. So definitely like own a brand. Jay-Z set the example for all of us when Ace of Spades or Crystal, when they came out and were super racist back, I think it was like 2010, he left and started Ace of Spades. And if you look at Jay-Z's like $1 billion net worth, I do this because I don't know how much he's actually worth. Over 1/3 of his $1 billion net worth came from Ace of Spades. Music probably got him like, I think the last breakdown I saw was like 70 mil. So he got less than 10% of his overall net worth from his actual music catalog. And it was like that pivotal moment where he stopped putting brands in front of him unless it was his brand. And now, you know, if everyone's heard, he's made over $500 million this last week just off Tidal, Ace of Spades. Those are brands that don't say Rock Nation, don't say rock, but he built these brands, you know, alongside his music.
So Ben, actually, since we're just talking about brands and brands partnership, do you want to talk about anything?
Yeah, I could put my 2 cents. Yeah, those are
great,
please,
dude.
Great things. Like merchandise is, I kind of treat it as like a billboard, you know, like it's really just a billboard at the end of the day. And I like the idea of creating merch that doesn't necessarily have your artist name on it, but kind of like a separate entity, because like you said, you could separate both entities, you know, and kind of have a different stream of income. So I think that's genius. And yeah, like just revolving your lifestyle as an artist around your product, you know, like it doesn't need to be merch either. Doesn't need to be merch also. It could be like, if you're preaching about in your music about like well-being, maybe you drop like an incense holder or like incense, you know, like you can get creative within out of the box and just kind of like represent your lifestyle and how you move as an artist, and your community is going to support that, you know, like the music is your product, but the idea and your whole being and who you are as an artist is what people really support first, you know? So merchandise is just an extra, you know, stream of income. And if people don't buy the first drop that you do, give them to friends. And that's just extra billboards for you in the streets, you know, extra billboards and your name's just going around, and, you know, it's free advertising. So, yeah.
I did want to put two little exclamation points on what they just shared, because that's excellent. Like those are, I mean, I think that advice that was just presented it's not even an option. I think you have to do those things. But two things that I feel like I see creators sleep on when it comes to the branding partnerships or even the merge, or, you know, definitely even strategic partnerships that aren't necessarily connected to branding. There's two assets that I feel like all creators have, no matter how big or small, that they don't spend enough time on. And two, they just don't recognize them enough to use them as leverage. So the first one is, when you go into these conversations or you negotiate these deals, your audience is leverage. That's an asset. So it doesn't matter how many records you sold or how many releases you have on Spotify, how many. Now, I'm going to get to the numbers game, but what I'm saying to you is, if you have an established, well-engaged audience and you understand the audience down to, you know, male, female, what part of the country, what part of the world, oh, people like when I drop my album at midnight instead when I drop it midday on a Sunday, like all these details, that moves to the second asset, which is the data. So the audience is the individual themselves, and then there's the data. If you mine, and I mean MINE, if you consolidate that data and make it presentable, whether you put it in a deck, you put it in a PDF, you put it in some kind of report, spreadsheet, if it's mined where it's presentable to somebody you're trying to negotiate with, it is leverage for you that's greater than you just going, oh man, guess what? I got a verse from Lil Baby. Like, okay, cool. Guess what? There's 200 other people that got a verse from Lil Baby that can never release it because he gave you a verse, but you don't have permission to drop it, right? So that's not leverage in a brand conversation, in a business, a true business setting, a music tech conversation. The audience and the data to support that audience is your leverage. So it's not the easiest thing to do, because you have dashboards every time you do business. And, you know, again, you might have a dashboard and DistroKid. You might have some data that's an ASCAP. You might have some data that's from your own website, which is recommended, especially if you're doing your own branding. You kind of need to package all that data into a picture. It needs to be a portrait so you can leverage it. But I just want to say on the telling and what they said, it's a must what they're telling you. It's not an option. You should be doing this as a creator, but just make sure those two assets, your actual audience and the data that goes along with that, you have to spend some time on that, because otherwise it's like just you have money just sitting to the side that you never invested correctly. And you might have $100, but it's just gonna always be $100. Whereas if you package it right, you can turn that $100 to a million, you know.
No, that was dope. Thank you. There's so many things going on in my head during that conversation. I still want to talk about, you know, sync licensing. One thing I do want to talk, because it does have to do with brand partnerships, is one thing that I had a big misconception of in my first 3 years of music was, you know, contracts. You know, contracts can be scary if you've never ever looked at a contract, like just in general. I know we all look at like Apple contract agreements and everyone just scrolls to the bottom and clicks yes. But when you're dealing with someone who wants to invest money, or there's money exchanged, or even like, you know, brand value exchanged, a contract is just an agreement on paper in every aspect. If you do not agree to the terms that are on paper, don't sign it. If you don't know what those terms are even saying, go get a lawyer. Like, and that's the easiest thing I can tell you. And it's because like legal terminology is meant to confuse you. And now if you're not even business savvy, you're that much further behind. But again, if you see something and it doesn't sound right, Maiwand mentioned terms earlier, 3 years terms. That's kind of standard in the industry, 1 to 3 years. I was looking at a contract one time that was 7 years. And I said, damn, bro, I'd be 30 by then. I'd be over 30. And then it was like, I was like, nah, I just don't agree with it. So we didn't sign that. We said we took something back. So I'm like, I'm saying a contract is an agreement between two parties. You can negotiate. You should negotiate. It's business. But don't just sign it because it's in front of you. Like, that's a terrible piece of advice, is to think that this is only going to happen once for you. People think that you're only going to get a contract once. If someone's coming to you a contract in general, that means they see something. So if you keep going, another one's going to come along. And then if you keep going past that, another one. So that was just, again, brand partnerships, agreements, contracts, don't be scared of them.
Can I put my 2 cents? Sorry.
Please, no, please. That's the whole point of this.
I just wanted to, Maiwand, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right, brother, but he brought up a great point and an example with Megan Thee Stallion earlier. And I just wanted to say, he was so prolific in making that statement of there's two sides to the situations, especially when it comes to music industry contracts and negotiations. And this is my thing. You signed that contract. So I understood, I had empathy for her, but she also had an independent that invested in her and blew her up. The independent blew her up. Roc Nation did not blow her up. Roc Nation is where she is today. The independent blew her up. So I just want to reiterate again what Steven's saying, the mention earlier, pay attention to the paperwork. And again, you are committed to your 50% of that agreement. So yes, you can point the finger and say, oh, the label played me, you know, the publisher got over on me, oh, this manager stole my money and this, I didn't know I was getting this percentage and that percentage is too high. But guess what? That high percentage was on the paperwork that you signed with your manager or your cousin or your mom that you said was your manager. Whatever the situation is, you have to own it. So I just want to say that because it's definitely two sides to that situation.
And everybody should understand and anticipate and expect, I think I can cuss, they are going to try to fuck you. They are going to try to fuck you. They're going to try to fuck you. Everybody. One of my artists in New York, he had somebody calling him saying, we're going to shoot a $10,000 video. I believe in your song so much. My dad has some super rich guy. His dad owned a production company. It's a true story in Turkey. So he was like, yo, they're going to shoot me a $10,000 video. We're doing this and that. Look at the video treatment. I looked at it. It looked amazing. Next day, the contract came in. That was my first concern. I was like, why are they sending a contract for a music video? And he was ready to sign it and go because they were like telling him, we're going to book your flights. We got this mansion. They were showing all these videos. Long story short, it was about a 5-6 page contract. I went through it line by line. They were going to own, they were going to retain all the money from the YouTube video, which is interesting because that's fine. I told them if they're going to shoot the video, realistically, your YouTube video is not going to change your life. But if the music video didn't recoup within 2 years, they were going to actually take, it was 50% of the song for 5 years. And at any point, they were allowed to reinvest an additional $10,000 at their discretion. And these are things that are really in contract. So they could have said, hey, we're putting $10,000 into Google ads. At their discretion, they could spend $10,000, extend the contract to 7 years, and it also went to 15% of his whole catalog. These are things on page like 4 and 5, like article C, D, E, F. Shit was mind blowing. And so like people got to read through that shit, expect it. And if you don't think they're going to fuck you over, it doesn't matter who it is. It's their job to try to, it's like an NBA trade, a sports trade. Everyone wants to win the trade. So expect that. Don't get mad. We ended up going back and forth 20 times, literally almost like 20 times before we just told these guys, forget about it. So expect that, people are going to try to screw you over. Don't get like offended out the gates. It's natural. You want to screw them over too. So you just, there's going to be a back and forth. Make sure you read over that. There's some, I'm sure you guys could say it too, there's some crazy shit in these contracts, sunset clauses. If you go back and work with the artist I introduced you to, like, I own 20% of that song, even if I wasn't in the room or you told me to fuck off. There's a lot of crazy shit. So definitely get a lawyer. If a lawyer's too expensive, find a homie, like a cheap lawyer, you got to invest like that. Do not sign shit. Do not sign shit until somebody else has read it. Even if you understand it, have somebody else gander through that shit, because there's some shit in these things.
Last little pro tip from my lawyer when it comes to contracts: think worst case scenario in every situation and you will be fine.
Good advice.
Don't matter, just think worst case scenario. Pro, what is a synchronized license? What's a mechanical license and what's getting a song synchronized?
Well, let's focus on the sync first. So, sync right now, especially once COVID hit, there's a bigger spotlight on sync, and sync is basically synchronizing your music to TV, film, gaming, advertisement, pretty much any content, any form of creative content where music can support the other media of creative content. So of course, you have watched a ton of content during COVID. So there's places for music in TV and film. Obviously with advertisers, you see how prevalent all the big brands use music, Apple, McDonald's when you're watching a commercial. And then now the gaming platforms are huge. There was some mention earlier, I think Maiwand mentioned, you mentioned a platform, I can't remember what it was, but Twitch, Twitch ran into some issues. Oh, Peloton is what I was referring to. So all of these companies stepped into adding music to their product and got sued. And the reason they got sued is because they didn't have the proper licenses, right? So there's an opportunity here on a major level and on an independent level. So the major level is working with, entities such as us or sync licensing houses, or if you have to connect with music supervisors, or there's platforms that you can upload your music and metadata to and pitch through their platform. Or you build those relationships and you develop direct licenses like I was speaking of Ace Hood. That's a direct license. That is the same thing as licensing your music like on a major level, but you're doing it direct through a direct relationship with no middleman. That's an excellent form of revenue. We do it all the time, and we actually do it with gaming content, not games, but the content to support gaming agencies that want to promote content and events. They license our music directly from my company, to use that content, because they do run into the problems and they don't have the budget to go get huge licenses from, all the major artists. So we have just as well quality of music and diversity. So it works, but you have to build those relationships. But sync licensing is fantastic because, especially for independents, you get the advance. In most cases, you're going to see some type of advance if you place a song in sync, right? TV and film. Let's just focus on TV and film right now. TV and film. And then you're going to get your back end, which has to do with that proper metadata, which they're going to make sure you have proper metadata when it comes to sync licensing, because what a TV network and a movie company don't want is any legal issues. So they will ride you to get every particular detail in regards to metadata to make sure that the people are properly listed, properly compensated, the check is issued to the right party, all of these, cross the T's and dot the I's. So you'll see residuals for performance rights through ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, et cetera. Now, here's the golden egg, and this is where we've been able to succeed as a company, is that we always retain the right to distribute the music. And since we are independent, there's no middleman. So whenever we placed a song sync-wise, we benefited off the increased streams for the artist. So I just gave you 3 revenue streams based on one sync: an advancement, residuals on the mechanicals, and then the streaming revenue. Now, there's other ways to flip that, obviously, because if you get a sync, even now you could do live streams and perform because your music is out there. You can leverage that. Hey, as seen on, whatever TV show, you can just milk that, because now the fact that people, it used to be on network TV, you watch a season, the season was gone unless you got it on, rented it from wherever at that point, right? DVD, VHS, if you go that far back. Now you get a sync license, people are watching that same episode infinitely, forever on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. So really that field of sync licensing is like, even if you get one sync in a year, you're blessed. So chasing that is, part of what we do. It's a fantastic thing to do. And then we try to sprinkle the smaller licenses in between to kind of fill the gaps. But I recommend everyone studying that portion of the book that was mentioned earlier, doing your own research and aligning with the proper content and company to pitch your stuff for sync, because it's just a great opportunity for independent artists. And also TV shows, if anyone's familiar with Insecure by Issa Rae. So her music supervision team, they were specifically getting sync because they wanted to help break artists. So not only were they listening to the songs, they were researching the artists because they're like, I want to help an artist with the right song. So think of it like that way too. It's like these are breaking vehicles on how to break an artist. And her team was so good at it, she went and got a pub deal and a label deal. I don't know where her pub deal is, but her label deal is with Atlantic. So that's how important music is to TV and film. Like she's already a TV production company star. She leveraged the music to go get deals on the music side, right? So that's just an example I know of where I know the details. So I'm like, this is excellent. Like, so I want you guys to always value that asset you have. You can use it in that fashion, like the sync licenses. Oh, and I'll tell you another one we've been successful at, because you can do this starting tomorrow. We all know creatives because you're creatives. There are people making beats, and there's also people making movies and music videos and short films, and you need to align with those individuals that need music for those projects and use that as leverage. It might not always be budget, but again, if you're working on breaking the artist, even as a producer, that artist having leverage in an independent film, it's more advertising for you. Take it to go get a bigger situation. You can have better conversations when you have that kind of activity going on. Like, look at that. Those are opportunities that are out there every day. There's definitely as many filmmakers and people pitching TV shows as there are music producers and artists, definitely. So, align with those people.
Yo, I gotta ask, what advice you got? And I'm about to take notes. For what advice do you have for independent artists trying to find these right individuals to align with for sync opportunities specifically?
Oh, yeah. No, so I'll be honest with you, and Steven knows personally, it has been very, I can't even soften it up. It's a fucking hustle. Like it took years of like, the advice I would get without giving a backstory. So this is the advice. I think there are some solid, I'm not saying fantastic over the rainbow. There are some solid platforms that help you get acclimated to pitching your music. Just Google sync licensing. They'll come up. I don't like to advertise a particular one. Just see which one works for you. I say test it. Put a couple of songs up, the correct metadata, everything, and start pitching through that online vehicle. The other thing is the music supervisors. This is kind of how I would say I circumvent it. So the music supervision community is very tight knit. They are very elite is the word. They are elite when it comes to the film, TV, and music sides of the business. They're like this circle. They all know each other. It's a small, so much now that the big three have their own music supervisors that they hire out. Like it's just this whole net, right? But what you do is this music supervisors have the same thing that we all have. They have conferences, they have virtual panels, I started attending the virtual panels. They have this big conference every year in Hollywood off of Sunset. You start showing up there in the lobby or you buy a ticket. It's expensive. I think that one might be a good $1,500 even now during COVID. But those are the moves you have to make because you have to develop the relationship in person. And I will say, I was able, this goes to a whole nother conversation, but if your profile, your online profile is right, you can approach them on platforms like LinkedIn. I'm calling that one out specifically because I do have 2 relationships with music supervisors based off me just reaching out on LinkedIn and them kind of vetting who I am and going, oh, I'll give this guy time to just respond and let me see where this goes. And then, I hit him, luckily I hit him with good music and I was able to develop that relationship. So those will probably be my immediate suggestions, but it will start off with your music has to be on point. And you have to make sure you have all versions of songs you're pitching, the files, like make sure you have your instrumental with the hook, the full version. If it's explicit, have a clean version, your acapella, all the metadata. You might want to make sure you have the cover art in the pitch. You want to have the song lyric sheets. Like these are all things that when you do get the wheel turning, people ask for it quick. When you're dealing with sync, you can't get the, so we need the lyric sheet. And you go, okay, yeah, I'll have it to you by Friday. And it's a Tuesday. No, when they ask you for the lyric sheet, you probably should have it within the next hour or two, right? That's how the sync business works. And especially if they get to asking for edits, like, oh, well, we need this one word change. Can you change this word? And you're like, damn, I don't even get along with that artist anymore, but I have all the files. So how do I, you know what? You figure out a way. So that's the thing too about sync. It moves. It's like the long game. So there's a lot of pre-game, but once the game starts, it moves so fast. And then the thing is, it gets slow again when you're waiting on your check.
So music is a rush to wait industry. I need everyone to understand that if y'all want to be successful, you got to rush, and then you're going to wait. You don't know how long you're going to wait for, but that's all it is. And because like he said, people will pass on opportunities because say an example, someone comes to you with an opportunity, but you're number 2 pick. You're not even number 1. And then you take too long and they're stressed. They have to meet a deadline. They're going to bypass you, go straight to number 3. They'll bypass number 3 if they're not ready. And then that's why that's why I'm the best advice for young artists, get everything in line before the drop. Get the music video ready, get the merch ready, get the promo ready, have it all ready. So when it drops, you roll it out like a normal business instead of like, oh shit, this song is doing pretty cool. Let's play catch up. Like, nah, this shit isn't going to work out. You got to be ahead of the curve and you got to be able to dance when motherfuckers say dance as long as you're dancing for a check. As long as you're getting the bag, you can dance. But word to Cardi B.
Just going to interrupt real quick. This is an amazing game. I've been noting down a bunch of notes. And I have Moses Jones, an artist from Montreal, and he just got his first sync placement recently. So I just wanted him to share that.
Congratulations.
Nice. Good shit.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Yeah, it's crazy because this was like last week and I missed the last Diploma call and then I go on to this call and you guys are talking about the sync placements. And I'm like, wow, this really is manifestation, But I feel this sync placement was more in the traditional route where actually working with a publisher, working with a girl who's been in the industry, but she does it all herself. And it's true what you mentioned, Create MF, that it's like, it's really tight knit and it's really elitist. You know what I mean? Because she was able to get the in, but I don't think we wouldn't have been able to get that pitch if like we used the online services or something like that. And it's like, she explained that to us, obviously, before we settled down and signed a contract and stuff, so and so. But it's really
a relationship business.
Yeah, it's really a relationship business, and it's like it's the way she explained it, it's kind of how you said, it's like a rush, go, and then you kind of wait. It's like this will be the first of many, and don't feel like because you might not get the money right away, or you might have to wait a little. It's good that you kind of just like responded quick and you everything like that.
Yeah, just to give somebody an example, and congratulations again. We got a placement in July, I believe it was, and we didn't get the check from a major net. It was Fox. We didn't get a check till December. So that's just an example. Like, it really is like you're busting your ass, and then you're like, damn, is it there yet? But that's
quick. I thought you were gonna say you didn't get that check till July of the next year.
I'll say
like normally
I got the check in December. Yeah, I got the check in December because of my methods. Let's say that. So sometimes you have to be the asshole sometimes. That's part of what we do as executives, right?
You got to be the right side of the business asshole, though.
Right.
Like I'm only an asshole because you're not following this agreement, motherfucker.
Yep.
So pretty much, y'all, everyone, we talked about performing rights organizations. We talked about what you need to do with the metadata. Then we taught you how to get it on platforms that are monetizing with the distributor, the benefit of partnering with the brand, partnering with the distribution company. Once your music's out there, obviously it's going to stream. You're going to get that money because you registered. And then sync licensing is that next opportunity. It's that way to get more residual income, literally money as you sleep. So the last thing I want to talk about before we kind of wrap this panel up, I know my panelists agreed to an hour, so I want to be respectful of their time. Let's talk about cutting records. Maiwand can talk about this, Pro can talk about this. I want to kind of open it up to Maiwand first. When someone cuts a record, or when you're looking for getting a record cut, what does that mean? And how can you make money off of it?
So I think the common misconception, or at least what I thought, because, as one thing I tell a lot of people is I haven't won a Grammy yet, and I haven't helped anyone win a Grammy, so I don't have all the answers. But one thing that I've learned is when you hear, I'm going to give an example of just something that I was around at the time. I don't know if you guys remember Rihanna's Love on the Brain. She had that song, I Got Love on the Brain. It was a big song for her, and it was really big because it was more pop. It wasn't really the traditional Rihanna kind of sound. So I think when I was younger, and what a lot of creatives might assume, is that Rihanna sat there with the producer and was like, I got this great idea. I'm going to do Love on the Brain. And he played the guitar. False. The song came from a guy named Jay Angel, or Joseph. Jay's an incredible talent that wrote that song. I don't have these years right. I'd have to look everything up. He wrote the song 3 years before we ever heard it. Wrote it. I want to say he had cut 12 to 15 records for her. Now, for him to get it to Rihanna, he had nothing to do with that. He had a management team. One of the managers was hounding Rock Nation, like knocking on their door. I remember he kept going to meetings, just showing up at lunch meetings to pitch this pack of records. So a year after they cut the record, Rihanna's team, finally somebody got it and was like, you know what, you're right, this sounds dope. Rihanna hears it now. Now it took Rihanna it was probably like 3 to 5 months to cut her own version of that. Because people got to understand, these artists are cutting probably 200 songs per album. Not like completed songs, but Neo used to say he did 200 to 300 records per album. So they're cutting all these songs. So now Jay Angel, who let's say he wrote the song in 2012, now it's 2014 and Rihanna finally did her take. The record didn't even come out for another fucking year. So from the time he wrote the record to the time it hit the radio waves, you're looking at a 2 to 3 year process that really took like 4 or 5 different human beings. It was him to write the record, his management team to meet with the guy at Rock Nation, then the guy at Rock Nation to go take it to Rihanna and her team, and then Rihanna to actually make the song. And then even though the song made the album one of the biggest songs on the album, I think it's one of her most successful songs to date. Dude didn't start getting paid till like a year and a half after the song came out.
18 months.
So to put into perspective, from the day he wrote the song to the day he got a check on it was probably 3 whole years, maybe 4. In that time too, I knew the guy really well. Like Jay Angel does not answer my calls anymore. Back when he used to, I'm sure he'd be comfortable with me sharing this. He was sleeping on a homie's couch. He was borrowing money from the management team. He actually beat cancer in that time. Like he almost died before the record even came out. Thank God he didn't, because now he's chilling. This motherfucker is chilling, writing songs for Twilight. He had a big song, a couple of big placements after that. But to speak on what you were saying, it takes more than you just writing the song. You need somebody to take the song, pitch the song. They gotta, whoever they pitch the song to needs to petition for it. Like literally go to the artist, like, yo, have you heard this? Have you heard this? Have you heard this? So it realistically probably takes 3 to 4, maybe 5 individuals to cut an actual record, from the concept of the record to it actually being, you know, performed by some major artist. And that goes back to what we kind of brought up earlier with like doing splits and giving 5-10% of your song to somebody, because these 3-4 people in between, they got to eat. That's their job. Your job was to make the song. The artist's job is to perform it and release it. But there's 3 or 4 people in between every single song that need to eat. And if these people don't eat, that's the one thing I'm gonna say to everybody: feed these motherfuckers. I have seen artists lose tons of placement opportunities. I'm not trying to toot like my own horn, but I had someone call me a month ago saying, yo, we're writing songs. And Steven knows I reached out to him for this project now with some of his artists. They asked me for an artist I used to work with. They specifically by name said, can you get me in this studio with him? Dude fucked me over for like a couple $1,000, stopped answering my calls. He just lost out on an opportunity to make 10-15 grand, because in that moment he was like, nah, I'm not. He didn't want to break me off because, you know, they didn't see the value of what I do. Let me tell you guys, as an artist, your job is to not make these relationships and make these plays happen. You should be able to, but the fact that you're making the art itself is a huge skill set, and you should be okay with that. But you got to take care of these people. Some of my good friends, like one of my buddies got a placement on a major album. The person who got him the placement, he just sent him a bottle of Moet. He didn't give him any money. He didn't break him off a percentage of the song. So that person who got him the placement will literally not even answer his call anymore. And I'm cool with both guys. And the guy who made the placement happen is the only reason that song happened. The artist would have never fucking heard the beat, would have never even heard of the producer, would have never came across their spectrum. And because the producer then didn't take care of the dude who connected all the dots, that guy won't answer his calls. He won't even try to get his beats placed anymore. He doesn't care at all what happens to him. So it takes a lot of people to really get a record cut. And normally by the time your ears hear a really popular song, it's probably been done 20 different times, 10 different renditions. There's normally like a songwriter. I'm sure for us guys, we all know this, but so people who know, normally somebody writes the song and then somebody else sings the song in not the key, but the way that they want to get it sold. Right. So if you write a song, you write a song for Justin Bieber. If you don't sound like Bieber, don't send that song to him yet. Find somebody who can make him hear what he wants to hear out of himself. That's the top line. So I think you need somebody who can give you a good top line, because these artists need to kind of envision themselves on the song. And most great, you know, really good songwriters aren't really good singers, and vice versa. So it takes that too, that like Kobe Shaq mentality of like, I'm gonna write some really good shit, you're gonna sing it, and then you have the process of getting it to the artist. So it takes a lot of people to really get like big records placed. And if you don't take care of everybody, if you don't give everyone their piece of the pie, they will never take care of you again, work with you again. So that's a really important thing I think everyone should hammer in, is like, take care of the people who take care of you. Because believe me, as an artist, you're not going to have that time to go to these industry parties, go to studio sessions. Like that's what people like me, Steven, I'm sorry, I don't have your name here, my guy in the red, but that's what we do. Like, Pro, this is what we do. Like the time you spend, the artists spend writing music, we spend doing things like this, building these relationships. And like Steven knows, if one of his artists goes platinum tomorrow, and they don't, take care of him, like literally compensate him financially, he will not help them go platinum again. Why the fuck would he do that? Why? Why? So take care of the people who help you. And when that $1,000 comes, split it up, chop it up with the right people. That's more important, having that in place, that system, than, keeping that extra 10, 20% of your song.
Amen.
Preach.
Agreed, bro. Agreed. So yeah, Pro, do you want to add anything?
I mean, no, he nailed it. Honestly, just the clarification on the cutting process. And, it's a little easier when you do it in the independent space with cutting those records, but even those take time. And then if you cut records quick in the independent space, it's about timing when you release that, or, the collaboration. It isn't just, oh, I have this record, like I said earlier with that feature situation. Just because you have a dope feature, maybe say in the hip hop space, that doesn't mean you should drop it immediately, right? You see people sit on features for a year or two, or you might see that somebody's getting hot or they're closing their deal. You have to align these things so you have everything that, basically free promotion. Let's just sum it up like that, right? You want to make sure you got to align. But yeah, no, that was excellent. That was excellent. Like he brought, we don't have time for stories, but man, oh man, he brought up some memories. I have stories. Yes.
So yeah, I would love to open it up for any questions. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you, Pro. Thank you, Maiwand.
Thank you, guys.
Ben, for giving us this space. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We'd love to open it up for questions.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, man, hit us up.
I got a few questions.
Yeah, go for it, brother.
Well, I'd like to know, like, let's say, so I'm doing everything independently, right? So I'm writing the songs, I'm mixing the music, I'm doing everything. Now, to do all that you guys are saying, right? Wouldn't it be easier for me to try to go and find people to take some of the weight off of me? Try to figure out how to build myself my own team.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Music is a team sport.
Right. So this is the dilemma I've been dealing with for quite some time now, doing everything on my own. And I see myself I already deal with depression, and you add all this extra weight on me, and I'm just like, damn, like how am I gonna do this? Gotta think about the marketing. I gotta think about I could read all the books I want, but that's not gonna make a difference if I'm just doing everything on my own. So what I was trying to get at is like, how do I go now look for the people that I need to help me get to where I want to go? I have some people, but the older you get, the more people are into what they're doing, right? It's not like when you're young and like, let's say you're 16, you're with your homies, right? And then you want to build a team. It's way easier that way to do it then, right? Because you're young. But the older you get, the more people are into what they're doing. So it's really trying to get those people to pull into your own little sphere. This is what I'm trying to get at. How do you get the gravitas, or the people to come towards you to build something much bigger than whatever you have in your mind?
Who's gonna go first?
Yeah.
I'll speak from experience. I manage a few different artists, and what it came down to is, one, they for me, there's a checklist of 4 things that an artist needs to be like a superstar. And it's like, 1, the music has to be undeniably good. 2, they have to have the work ethic. They will never be able to outwork the manager or the team that's working with them. So right there, they have to have they got to have people like them. Like, as a person, they got to be likable. They got to be friendly. And then the last one is, there has to be some kind of, not necessarily sex appeal, but they got to have it going on, man. They got to have that. So then once they knock off all of those check marks, I see, all right, are they a good performer? So they are selling me by doing their artistry. They are working top tier as hard as they can right there with the knowledge they have. And then what I'm going to do as a management team or as another person, I'm going to only help that success. I'm not responsible for that. Essentially, I am, Like I'm not, it's their job to keep up with me, and we work cohesively. So you got to find someone who wants to build with you, or you can join a team of people who do this. Like there are groups of management teams who are like, other boutique labels aside from CREATE.Digital that's like, they don't do as much because they're a little bit bigger, but they have like, hey, we're a machine. You're with our artists, and then you have like their outlets. You still got to do your work, but you have access to their outlets. You have access to their resources. So again, that's a brand partnership though. So that's making sure that value is right there, that all the pieces make in line. Like what I said to myself is I have to operate like a label if I want to attract a label. So you got to operate top tier if you want those people to be attracted to you. So my best point of advice is to really, do an audit on yourself. It's like, okay, basic, is my music audit good? Is my like metadata good? Is my social media is good? Like all of that. And then be like, hey, I'm ready to this thing, because that's what a management team is going to come to. They're going to come to you and be like, okay, what's your analytics? What's your social media? What's your data? What's all this? Do you have a pro? Like basic stuff. So you got to make sure that all your basics are completely tied down. You at least have a branding, and then you set yourself up so that someone can help you. That's going to be my best advice. Because it's going to come. The more consistent you are, the more you're like showing people you're moving, people are attracted to that.
I got one more question. So like I said, like I'm mixing my songs, I'm doing everything. Well, wouldn't it be easier for me to maybe at times, I know Russ talks about doing everything on your own, and because he obviously makes his own music, and a lot of his songs that popped off, he did it all. Go ahead, go. No, you got something to say. No, you got something to say.
Russ did it alone as a team, though.
Yes.
That motherfucker has an A1 team, bro. Like his videographer did all those videos for free. That's a whole asset in himself. All the engineering, all the management team, like their management team does like talks, and they talk about it. They've been pushing Russ for a long time. He's all independent. He's all myself, but like his team's under that impression that is the image they want to push. Cohesively, they agree that's the image. It's not like they're cool with not getting any credit, because they built a superstar. He traveled to like Dubai from wherever the fuck he's from in the Middle East, not from like the East Coast, and then just like poosh. It's just crazy.
It's like, it's important to remember and not to take anything away from dude. Like, I don't listen to Russ, but if Russ called right now, I'd hang up this shit and answer. It's part of his image is being like the Gary Vee of rap. Is being like look, there's no one else in the room. And if you ever notice all of his interviews and shit, it's just him. And it's very like, I made it here. So that's part of his image, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing for us all to like have that mentality that can happen. I was going to give him a piece of advice I got from a mentor of mine a long time ago. He told me about a book. I think it was called The $1 Million Dinner or something. Anyway, this guy he was unemployed, some Wall Street guy in New York. He had some money in his bank account. So he decided to do, before he got back into the workforce or whatever, he essentially went to dinner with one individual a day for a whole year. Just networked with somebody he knew. Just reached out to people in his contacts, probably went through LinkedIn, Facebook. Now it'd be like Instagram, Twitters. And he just met with somebody every day and just talked about what he was doing, what he was working on, where he's trying to go. He heard that individual. By the end of the year, he like had started some $1 million business from one of those relationships. So the concept is try to meet somebody every day. That I think will do you wonders. Set the goal to either set up a call, DM somebody, actually get engagement. Like, yo, nice to meet you. I like what you do. Try to meet somebody every day, just one individual a day. Within a month, you will have 20, 30 new contacts, and that will probably be how you'll be able to build up a team. And today it's easier than ever, bro. Clubhouse, you can literally just do it on Clubhouse, or expand that. Instagram, Clubhouse, go on Twitter, try to meet somebody every day. And when you meet somebody, you have to, everybody I meet in the music industry, I try to scratch their back 3 times, 4 or 5 times before I ask them for anything, before I even present the idea of asking them. There's tons of like songwriters I know who are, this girl, Jenna Andrews, I produce her podcast for nothing. I don't get a penny. I put hours of my week into it. I run the Twitch ender for podcasts. I get it on Spotify. I have never asked her for anything. I've asked her to get me in touch with the artist once, and that was it. And so anytime I meet somebody, I immediately try to do as much as I can for them. 3, 4, 5 things. I try to really scratch their back to the point when I need something or I need help with something, they feel obligated. They want to go out of their way to do it. But I think it really, for the artist who asks, it's going to start just by trying to meet somebody every day. Expand your network, create a Google spreadsheet, put their name, put how you met them, when's the last time you spoke with them, and try to communicate with somebody new every day. Within 2, 3, 4 months, you're going to have 100 new contacts. And then a lot of these people, after hearing your story, will probably come back to you. I bet you somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want to manage you, or I want to help do your marketing, or I want to help get you, artists. Or it's just people probably don't know what you're doing. And there's so many people out there. So get on Clubhouse, get on Instagram, look at artists who are at the level that you're at, who's managing them, try to find their managers, and just meet people. If you meet one person a day, by the end of the year, you're going to have 300-400 new contacts.
Thank you.
And I want to piggyback when he said about like the relationship thing and kind of waiting of when to pull that plug. I learned from my mentors, and I watched 2 people meet each other and not ask to even work together for a whole year. They just built a friendship. And then once they were like, we're good as people, they hopped into business, and there was no distrust. There was no, curiosity of, oh, am I going to get fucked over? Is this person going to get fucked over? Can I say what I want? So building that genuine relationship too is just extremely important. Pro, anything?
Oh, no, I will add, just because he mentioned the mental health aspect, I will forewarn that it's something you do need to prepare for, because you guys gave excellent advice, to anybody, is that everyone is not going to meet your criteria or expectation. So just be prepared that in order to find those mutually beneficial individuals, you are going to still have to put on your boots and walk through the bullshit. It's part of the business. And if you aren't built for that, you need to look in the mirror and just admit that and maybe move on to a different industry. But I'm just being very serious right now when I say that is part of the experience of the creative side of music and music business. You are going to have to weed through individuals that aren't really qualified to be in your life or be part of your business, but it's just part of the process. You'll grow on it, you'll evolve, but it's part of the process.
And every major artist who's made it, I hate to say it, part of the reason I stopped being an artist when I was younger was I found out they're all depressed. And I don't mean to say that in like a bad way. It's just part of the stress. If you get to the point where you're selling 1 million records, you know how many fucking problems you're going to have, how many lawsuits you're going to have, how many friendships, think about how many producers Kanye West has met. And every time he drops an album, he can only drop, 10 songs. What about the other 20, 30 people who are begging to get on that album? I know some of these guys, and they're traumatized when Kanye drops the album and they're not on it, because that's how they were going to eat for that year. That's in their head. So my point is that, depression's a new black. It's going to be a part of this game, but use it as a superpower. And I'm not going to go into a long rant, but look up what Red Hot Chili Peppers, Under the Bridge. Anthony Kiedis tried to kill himself in like the late 80s. And years later, he had a note in his notepad that Rick Rubin saw, where he said, I don't ever want to feel. That was about him trying to overdose. So don't try to overdose. Don't get in any drugs. But I'm saying use these emotions you're having as like a tool. Use it as like a superpower. Let it get bled into your music, but expect it. The more success you get in music, the harder it gets, and depression and making it in music go hand in hand. It really sucks. But the most successful artists, when you see them in a room, they're rarely happy. Like they're always stressed out. There's always an opportunity they miss. So try to learn to live with that, grow out of it. But don't think it's just you. Like I promise you, every major artist gone through depression. Britney Spears buzzed her head. She had sold hundreds of millions of records, down to like every single artist, man. T-Pain will speak about blowing through $40 million and thinking about killing himself. So like every artist goes through it. Don't let it consume you. Let it fuel you. Let that be like what, make your under the bridge. And you can look that up. Anthony Kiedis really tried to end it all, and instead he probably came up with their best song ever made.
Well, thank you guys for sharing. Any other questions?
And I do have to sign off. Sorry, man. I gave you an extra 30, but
No, it's all good.
Sure. But I appreciate everyone, man. And look, as someone said earlier, opportunity to share and an opportunity to gain knowledge as well. So I thank you guys for sharing, because I always walk away enlightened. And, we could do it again. Just let me know.
We appreciate you.
Okay.
Appreciate you, man.
Take care.
Yeah, does anyone else have some questions before we tap out? If not, we'll wrap this up.
So
Good?
I'm
We're
good. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Ben, for sharing your platform. And thank you, Maiwand, my guy. I appreciate you as always.
Yeah.
We
Thank
appreciate
you,
you, Stephen and Maiwand.
Appreciate you. And
thank you, bro. You're on the right path. You have this book. I can't show it, but
let me put it on the screen right quick. Yeah,
everybody, anyone who watched this, please stop everything you're doing. Stop recording your fucking album. Read this book. This guy is the professor at USC. USC has the most prominent music industry program. People pay $200,000, basically $50,000 a year to get taught that book. So get that book, everybody.
Quick question. This is the 9th edition, so I believe there has to be a 10th edition by now, right?
Probably. That's the same one I have. It changes a little bit through time. As long as you have an edition of it, you're in the...
Right, because I had the Kashif, the first, like, whoever, I don't know. Let me pull this book right quick before we get off.
Yeah, there's going to be another version of that because they're going to have to include the MLC.
Yeah,
information like that goes into it. So it's a working book. It's a working document.
Exactly. That's the
This was the first one I got.
I can't see it. Hold on.
Everything better record industry.
No, everything you'd better know about the record industry.
Oh, you better know about
Kashif, artists, songwriters, producers, musicians, and music entrepreneurs.
How do you like it? Do you recommend that to the class?
Well, I mean, this is a pretty old book, so I'm not sure if it really stands the test of time, like, especially with what's going on here. But it's a good read, though.
For sure.
What we could do too is kind of like use all the links you guys shared in the books, and we could do like a recap email to everyone that's in here, so at least everyone has the links to those things. Yes.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. That'd be amazing. It's a great resource to have.
All right. Bless, guys. I appreciate everyone that took the time to come here and sponge in some knowledge, and everyone as the panelists, Stephen and Maiwand and Pro. Thank you guys, man. Appreciate all the love and the knowledge you guys have been sharing. So we'll tap in on the next lecture. Thank you guys. Have a good Sunday. Stay blessed.
Thank you.
Happy Sunday, everyone.
Man.
Take care. Be safe.